So what can we and what should we realistically expect from democracy? I mean, it's a massive question, one that affects more than half the people on this planet. So yeah, let's dig in. Let's be honest. Most of us, if you ask, would say we prefer democracy over, say, being ruled by a king or some military general. And yet, a lot of us aren't exactly thrilled with how it works day to day. And that right there creates a real dilemma, doesn't it? We see democracy as good in principle, but we feel it's not so good in practice. So what explains this disconnect?
This is the very heart of it. We can call it the democracy dilemma, this constant clash between what we believe it should be and what it actually is.
In theory, democracy is built on these really powerful ideas. It's supposed to promote equality, enhance our individual dignity, and lead to better decisions. How? Well, because it has these built-in methods to resolve conflicts, and this is key, to even correct its own mistakes. These are the ideals that make us believe in it in the first place. But here's our first crucial reality check. Democracy isn't a magic wand. It's a form of government, it's a framework, it can create the conditions for a better society, but it can't achieve those goals on its own. That part, well, that's up to us, the citizens. We're the ones who have to take advantage of those conditions and actually do the work. So, let's start with the most basic function of government. When it comes to being accountable, is democracy efficient or is it effective? Or both? You've probably heard this complaint a million times, right? Democracies are just so inefficient. And yeah, a dictator can make decisions instantly without worrying about what anyone thinks. Democracy, on the other hand, is based on deliberation and negotiation, so some delay is pretty much inevitable. But here's the twist. That slowness is actually a feature, not a bug. Because the democracy follows procedures, its decisions are often way more acceptable to people and, in the long run, more effective. And this brings us to a really key outcome: transparency. In a democracy, citizens have the right and the means to examine the whole decision-making process. That is a powerful tool for accountability, and it's something you almost never find in non-democratic governments. Ultimately, this all leads to one of the most powerful outcomes. Look, a democratic government might be slow, it can be messy, sometimes it's not very responsive or even totally clean, but it is the people's own government, and that's its greatest strength, its legitimacy. And this isn't just some fuzzy feeling. We can actually see this legitimacy reflected in the data. This evidence from South Asia shows just overwhelming support for the idea of democracy. People want to be ruled by representatives they elected, even in countries that don't have democratic regimes. So, democracy's ability to generate its own support, well, that's an outcome we just can't ignore. Okay, so democracy is legitimate. Got it. But what about our wallets? Is it good for the economy? Let's look at this classic tension between economic growth and economic equality. Now, this data might actually surprise you. Looking at economic growth rates between 1950 and 2000, dictatorships actually had a slightly higher rate of growth. But the difference is tiny, and for poor countries, it's pretty much negligible. So the key takeaway here is this. While democracy is no guarantee of economic development, we can expect it not to lag behind dictatorships. And that brings us to a much more important question. It's not just about creating wealth. It's about how that wealth gets distributed. This cartoon captures it perfectly. Sure, economic growth is happening, but the gains are making the rich super strong while the middle and poor sections of society, well, they're getting left behind. And the data absolutely backs this up. Democracies can have some extreme levels of inequality. In democratic countries like South Africa and Brazil, the top 20% of people take home over 60% of the national income. The bottom 20%, they get less than 3%. It's pretty clear that political equality at the ballot box doesn't automatically translate to economic equality in your bank account. And these two images together tell such a powerful story. On the left, you see the staggering global scale of this disparity, a tiny slice of the world's wealth for a huge portion of its population. And then on the right, you see the human cost of that. The poor are left patched up and voiceless. All right, so the economic record is mixed, to say the least. So what about social outcomes? Can democracy really create a place for everyone? Well, democracy has this unique ability to handle social differences. Unlike regimes that just try to suppress conflict, democracies actually develop procedures to negotiate it. They hold the potential for both outcomes we see here, a society that gets zipped apart by division, or two sides coming together to find an agreement. And democracy is best suited to produce that second outcome. But for that kind of harmony to happen, a democracy has to meet two really crucial conditions. First, the majority needs to work with the minority, not just steamroll them. And second, rule by the majority can't become rule by a permanent majority, one based on an unchangeable identity like religion or race. Every single citizen has to have a chance of being in the majority at some point in time. This brings us to the final and maybe the most profound outcome of democracy. It's not about money, and it's not just about stability. It's about us as human beings. This is where democracy stands far superior to any other form of government, in promoting the dignity and freedom of the individual. That passion for respect and that passion for freedom, they are the very basis of democracy. So here's the crucial point. Has democracy eliminated discrimination? No, of course not. But it recognizes the principle that all individuals are equal. And that recognition provides the legal and moral foundation for marginalized groups like women or disadvantaged castes to wage a struggle for the respect they deserve. That foundation, it just doesn't exist in a non-democratic system. And this isn't just some abstract idea. People really feel it. Data from South Asia shows that most individuals believe their vote makes a real difference, both to how the government is run and to their own lives. That right there is empowerment in action. And this leads to a powerful final thought. Whenever you ask people about democracy, they always have complaints. But that isn't a sign of failure. The very fact that people are complaining is a testimony to the success of democracy. It shows that people have developed the awareness and the ability to hold power accountable, transforming them from passive subjects into active citizens. So, in the end, what's most distinctive about democracy is that its examination never ends. As soon as it passes one test, it produces another. People will always ask for more, and they'll always want to make it better. Which leaves us with a final question to consider. What is democracy's next test?